what kind of material should you choose? So first off, make sure that you have stories, right? Like you need to think ahead and come up with a bunch of stories that you're going to use for these behavioral questions, okay? And you don't have to have, I would say at a minimum 5, and you could have as much as 10. And a lot of times you'll see that the examples of the stories that you're picking can serve as an answer to more than one question, right? Like a certain situation or story could be the answer to tell me about a time you took initiative and stepped up. It also could be the answer to tell me about a time when you handled a difficult situation, right? So what I usually have students do is kind of make a little grid, and I always say pick your stories, right? Let's aim for 5 to 7 solid stories. And then let's have the behavioral questions. So it's kind of like a grid. You have your stories up there, and then you have your behavioral questions, which all, if you've watched our videos, they basically all kind of can be broken into about 16 questions. That's what it comes down to, right? There are variations, but I would say 16 behaviorals is roughly what it is. And even that, you could group it and get it down to 10 behaviorals, right? So if you have 10 behaviorals and you have your stories, well then which of these stories can you use for which behaviorals? That's just a nice way of sorting things out if you feel like you need to remember which story goes with which behavioral, which story can be used for which. And also whether, you could use the same story to answer 2 different questions, right, in the same interview. And that is okay as long as you are picking a different aspect of the story, right? So it could be, you can say like, oh, so going back to, that example I gave you for previously that I spoke about, I'm going to, in that exact same time when I was working on that project, this also happened, and that this was also a challenge, right? So you're using the same context and the same story vehicle, you're using it twice. That's okay as long as you're obviously pointing to a different part of the story and different skill sets, right? Now you don't want to use the same story 3, 4, 5 times, but certainly twice is okay. Hi Vijay, hi Erica. It's good to see you guys. So we're talking about behavioral questions and how to tackle them in terms of preparing your stories. And now the part that's really important is how the material, like how personal do you want to get, and how professional do you need to keep some of these answers, right? So first of all, when I talk about personal, when I say, I often say, if you have chosen 5 work example stories, it's good to mix it up, right? And bring in something else. And I sometimes say the word personal. What I mean is that it's not part of your job, professional life, right? So you're using examples from, say, a volunteer activity, you're using examples from a community engagement, you're using examples from school, right? A lot of students who are currently, like, let's say, for example, in an MBA program, nothing like the dysfunctional team question. That's a great, there's no end of stories you can use from your MBA learning team, because usually you're put into a learning team, right, for a lot of your assignments, and that's just an awesome hotbed for all kinds of conflicts and shenanigans and dysfunctional teams and whatnot. So what I mean is, roughly 70% of the stories you talk about should be work related, and about 30% should be non-work, just so that there's a balance, and just so that it's interesting, and also that they know that these skills you have carries over, right? Because the kind of competencies and natural abilities we have, they don't typically just, if they're really truly our natural abilities, it's not just at work, right? You will have those same exact types of skills that operate in other areas of your life. So this is what I mean about community service or a special project, or when you're in school. Any of that counts, and you should definitely mix it up.